Day number one of the NCAA tournament is behind us, and what a day it was. Without a doubt, one for the memory books. And it all started with Maryland and West Virginia, a classic 8-9 matchup. And that's one of those matchups where you don't have confidence in picking a winner for those. It's always 50-50. But this was a very fun game to watch. It was a game about runs. Both these teams went on long runs at multiple points in the game. And it was overall an exciting finish. This game was a 9, maybe 9.5. It would have been a 10 if there would have been a buzzer beater, but this was overall a good game, and I felt like it was a good game to start the tournament off with. But truthfully, I'm not really a fan of these kinds of games being the starting games. I'm more supportive of an idea of maybe starting things off with the 1s versus the 16s. But overall, great game, as was Furman and Virginia, as this was the first of two major upsets today. This was a game where I pretty much knew that it was going to be a game like this. I knew it was going to be a game where Virginia was going to be challenged. And I saw a lot of people on social media say that Furman has no chance to win this game. I didn't call this upset. I was very close to doing so, but I did correctly say that Furman was going to challenge Virginia in this matchup. And the last few tournaments for Virginia, without that 2019 championship, it's just brutal for Virginia. First round exit against UMBC, first round exit against Ohio, now a first round exit against Furman. And this was a game that Virginia, they should have won. You have a veteran player in a position where he can do three different things. One, he could pass the ball to a teammate that's standing probably less than 5 feet from him. Two, wait to get fouled. Or three, call a timeout. But he does not do that. He decides to try to throw the ball down the court in hopes to run the timeout, but it gets intercepted by Furman, and it sets up a wild three-point shot to take the lead with less than 3 seconds left. And Virginia, once again, suffers a first-round exit. Overall exciting game. I give that a 10. I know it wasn't necessarily a buzzer beater, but it was overall an exciting finish. You live to see those game-winning shots really late in the contest. And Furman becomes the first major upset of this tournament. The first Cinderella. Then Utah State and Missouri, the 10-7 matchup. Missouri won by a pretty healthy margin. Although Utah State, they kept in it. This was also kind of another game about runs a little bit, but Missouri, they pulled away at the very end. Not as exciting of a game as the first two, but overall pretty good game. Give it about maybe a 7. Howard and Kansas, not really much to talk about. Kansas, they kind of did have a little bit of a few nerves at the beginning of the game, because there is pressure on Kansas in this tournament, and I do think that they really shook off some of those pressures as the game went on. Defending champions, Bill Self is not coaching this game, so they have an acting head coach for this matchup, but they still dominate 96-68. Really not that exciting of a game because it is a 1-16, but it's good to see that Kansas, they look like a contender. Alabama defeats Texas A&M Corpus Christi 96-75. A dominant performance by Alabama. As Alabama is another team that I feel like there's a lot of eyes on them with what's going on right now with the Brandon Miller situation and also with what's coming to light about the Alabama situation. As recent news came out about it, and it's good to see that they weren't fazed, they weren't distracted by the news, and they dominate. Now, this was a game where I thought the upset was going to strike. San Diego State defeats Charleston 63-57. And this was an exciting game to watch as well. I'll give it about an 8.5. I will say they missed a call that pretty much gave San Diego State 2 points. Could have been 3, but he missed a free throw. You just don't want to see games like this of this magnitude get decided by the officials. And there's been so many games. There's hundreds of games, not only in basketball, but any sport, where it gets decided by the officials, and you just don't want that. But in all honesty, I did mention that I did feel like a Mountain West team was due for a win in the NCAA tournament, as it was an 11-game drought for the Mountain West to win a NCAA tournament game. But the Aztecs, they did it. They pulled off the 6-point victory over Charleston, and I do feel like that probably was a popular upset pick. That's what I thought it was going to be, as I once again picked the wrong Cinderella, but it is what it is. Charleston just couldn't really buy baskets towards the end. They were known for being able to score at rapid paces, and San Diego State was the more physical defense in that matchup. But just another great 5-12 matchup there. And now the biggest upset of the day. And I don't want to jinx anything, but this could be the biggest upset of the tournament. 15th seed Princeton upsets Arizona 59-55. Arizona, once again, a fairly early exit in this tournament, as they exited the tournament last year in the Sweet 16. And now they lose in the first round to Princeton. And Arizona, they just could not pull away in this game, and that was their big problem. When you are a high seed, a high seed, when you're a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, when you are in the lead, you need to keep pushing on the accelerator. You need to create separation, and Arizona failed to do that. They let Princeton back into the game, and it was their downfall. Because if you're a 15 seed, 14, any double-digit seed, all you have to do is just stay in the game as long as you can, because the crowd's going to be on your side. As there's 4 games being played in one day on the court, so there are fans of other teams watching these games. And the people with no dog in the battle, they're going to root for the underdog. And the crowd, they were on Princeton's side. Arizona, they had an opportunity to send the game to overtime with a 3-pointer, and Kirk Risa missed the 3-point shot. Well, they had multiple chances, but Kirk Risa was the latest guy to have an opportunity to tie that game up, and they could not get it done. Princeton knocks down a free throw at the free throw line to ice the game up. Overall, perfect game. I'll give that a 10. As we saw a massive upset, Arizona was a very popular Final Four pick, even some for a national champion pick. As this is the 3rd tournament in a row where we have a 15 seed upset a 2 seed. It wasn't happening often, but now this is the 3rd year in a row. A 15 beats a 2. Illinois and Arkansas, the 8-9, as Arkansas beat Illinois 73-63, a 10-point victory for the Razorbacks. And I do think that Arkansas, I think they might be able to challenge Kansas a bit. If Bill Self is not coaching on Saturday, I would not be surprised if Arkansas won. I will say this. I feel like with what I've seen so far, I think that the biggest challenge that Kansas will face before the Final Four is Arkansas. I feel like if Kansas gets past Arkansas on Saturday, I think that they are a virtual lock for the Final Four. And I know that we saw UCLA play. We will see Gonzaga play tomorrow. But I just think that Arkansas is a team that's built for March. Eric Musselman, he's got experience in March. Arkansas has been in the last couple of Elite Eights, but he's fallen just short of the Final Four. Auburn beat Iowa 83-75, the 8-9. And the biggest disappointment of the tournament, well, at least one of them, Oral Roberts absolutely thumped by Duke by 20 plus. And Oral Roberts, they were just overhyped coming into this. I'm sure they were a popular pick. I mean, me included. It just seems like every time I don't pick Duke to go on a deep run, they just look very dominant in their first game. And whenever I pick Duke to go far, they lose early. So it's just, I just can't with Duke. But Oral Roberts, a very disappointing appearance in this tournament. Texas dominates Colgate. They pull away late. As Colgate, I had a feeling a 15 seed would be the 2 seed. I just thought of the wrong one. I thought Colgate had a really strong chance of pulling off the upset. I mean, they looked good pretty early, but Texas, they were knocking down 3-point shots, and Colgate, not so much. Texas beat Colgate their own game. Northwestern beats Boise State. Very happy for Northwestern. I originally picked Boise State to win that game, but I switched my pick to Northwestern at the last hour, and I'm glad I did, because my picks were not very good today. Tennessee survives a scare against Louisiana, as I saw some people maybe that Louisiana could pull up the upset, and you got to credit Louisiana. They hung in the game start to finish. Tennessee couldn't create separation. Houston, they had a scare against 16th seed Northern Kentucky. And a big development for Houston, Marcus Sasser. He re-injured his groin. So his status for the rest of the tournament is unknown. And I feel like if Marcus Sasser does not play on Saturday, I think it's very possible that Houston is going to get upset. I just don't know what to think about Houston going on a deep run without Marcus Sasser. And before, even with Marcus Sasser, I really expressed how I feel like Houston is the new Gonzaga, where we expect Houston to go pretty far in the tournament, but they're going to eventually have a downfall just like Gonzaga usually does. UCLA dominates UNC. Asheville, really not much to talk about there, as they were dominant start to finish. UNC Asheville, it took them like maybe 6-7 minutes just to score a point. And it took Oral Roberts against Duke like 8 minutes. So the Blue Bloods in UCLA and Duke, very dominant today. Kansas dominant today, despite a bit of a slow start, but they dominated them further on that game went. And finally, to wrap things up, Penn State dominates Texas A&M by nearly 20 points. Texas A&M, I feel like, forget Oral Roberts. This Texas A&M team, I feel like part of me should award them the disappointment of the tournament, as there were a lot of people that really thought that this Texas A&M team, they could make a deep run to the Final Four. I really thought with A&M, maybe Sweet 16, Elite 8 at best, but not Final Four. But the fact they lose in the first round, I mean, in hindsight, I do feel like it was an awful performance by them, but it's really tough to win games when your opponents are shooting 75% from three-point lane. And if you're shooting 75% from the three-point line, you're going to win nearly 100% of games. And that is what Penn State did tonight. As that 10-7 battle, that was a very tough one to pick. As deep in my heart, I felt like whoever's going to win that game between Penn State and Texas A&M was going to make a run to the Elite Eight. And luckily for me, I always hedge my bets. So, of course, I have a bracket with Penn State in the Elite Eight, probably even Final Four. I have a bracket with Texas winning it all. I have a bracket with Duke making the championship game. So you always had your bets in March, and that is what I did. That is all I have today. What a day it was, and I cannot wait to see what day 2 brings.